No. Meghan is not invited to my upcoming Santa Barbara event. I have no involvement with the Epstein matter. Prince Andrew and Meghan do. She made an advance toward me. I did not respond. That's all I'm going to say.
Did an Oscar-winning Hollywood legend just slam the door on the Sussex brand for good? Picture this for a second. A multi-million-dollar image built on royal mystery, fancy titles, and shiny California celebrity vibes. Now, imagine one of Hollywood's most respected power players suddenly making it clear that seat at the table is no longer yours. That is exactly the storm people say just hit the Sussex Circle, and it has everyone whispering. The middle of the royal drama. Commentators say the ripple effect pushed the monarchy into quiet alarm, with serious conversations suddenly floating around again. Some insiders even claim it reopened talk of options the palace rarely considers anymore. And the wild part is that the spark for all this reportedly started under the bright, unforgiving lights of a television studio. Far away from the calm traditions of royal life, Costner did more than politely pass on an invitation. Reports say he made it clear that Meghan Markle would no longer be welcome at his private charity gatherings. That was not just about trimming a guest list. In the world of Hollywood influence, moves like that send a loud signal. It hinted that attitudes inside powerful entertainment circles might be shifting in a big way. For years, the Sussex duo moved through elite Hollywood spaces while leaning heavily on their royal titles and global fame. But Costner's reported refusal made some observers wonder if the brand image has started changing from royal sparkle to something a little harder for insiders to handle. The rejection alone shocked people, but many say the real explosion came from the reasons being whispered behind the scenes. To understand why this moment feels so huge, you have to look closely at where this whole situation first unfolded. The 1805 Live Benefit in Santa Barbara is not just another fancy charity party. This event pulls in the real heavy hitters, the quiet power players who move things behind the scenes in that coastal billionaire bubble. When someone walks into that space, they are stepping into a room packed with influence, money, and reputation all on the line. For the Sussex duo, showing up at Kevin Costner's seaside estate was supposed to look like a massive public relations victory. The message was simple. They were still the shining power couple of Montecito, still welcomed by Hollywood royalty, still moving comfortably among the elite. But behind those polished smiles and camera flashes, people say the vibe was far from relaxed. Some insiders claimed Costner did not feel thrilled about the situation at all. Quiet whispers suggested a powerful agency that represents both Costner and the Duchess had pushed hard to make sure the two sides appeared together at the event. But people who know Costner say he is not someone who enjoys being pressured or managed like that. According to guests who attended, the tension in the air that night was easy to feel. On stage, Prince Harry appeared to have a quick moment of friendly energy while accepting an award, smiling for the cameras like everything was smooth. But observers said the interaction between Costner and Meghan looked noticeably cool. And in high-level Hollywood networking, body language speaks louder than words every single time. Clips from the evening show short nods, quick acknowledgements, and a clear physical distance. The kind of warmth usually shown to top celebrity guests just was not there. That moment looked small on the surface, but many believe it was the first crack in a mirror that would soon shatter. The real question people began asking was simple. What caused such a sudden shift from a host known for welcoming guests? According to longtime industry chatter, the answer might sit inside a pattern people in Los Angeles have quietly discussed for years. Long before Costner's name entered the story, conversations about Meghan reportedly floated around private lunches at places like the San Vicente bungalows. People in entertainment circles began describing a networking style they felt could come across as extremely persistent. Before any royal titles entered the picture, Meghan had already built a reputation as a determined actor who knew how to make the right connections. But as her fame grew bigger and brighter, so did the stories about a carefully crafted charm offensive aimed straight at the most powerful figures in the room. One former studio executive who watched Meghan move through industry events in the early 2000s shared an interesting observation. According to him, these meetings rarely happened by accident. They were carefully planned moments designed to break into one of the most closed and competitive circles in entertainment. In Hollywood, getting access to the right people can change everything overnight. The approach, he said, often followed a familiar rhythm. First came a thoughtful compliment that immediately made the other person feel appreciated. Then came intense attention, the kind that makes someone feel like they are the only person in the entire room. After that, the conversation would slowly shift toward possible collaboration, future projects, or professional support. In the tough world of acting, this kind of strategy is often called the hustle, and many actors rely on it just to survive. But according to some industry chatter, a few of those interactions occasionally made certain high-profile figures uncomfortable. Several insiders described moments where polite but firm rejections became part of the story. Nothing loud or dramatic, just quiet refusals and subtle distancing that later circulated among a small circle of actors and executives who value privacy and professional boundaries. In today's Hollywood climate, stories like these are viewed through a much sharper lens. After years of serious conversations across the industry about consent, influence, and power dynamics, people have become extremely cautious about any situation that feels like pressure or blurred boundaries. What might have once been brushed off as simple ambition years ago is now analyzed far more carefully. Kevin Costner, known in Hollywood as someone intensely private and deeply focused on his craft, represents a more traditional side of the industry. People often describe him as someone who values authenticity and professionalism over flashy attention. Because of that reputation, his reported distancing from the Sussex circle carried extra weight in the entertainment world. To many observers, it looked less like a personal disagreement and more like a signal that patience inside some elite circles might be wearing thin. But the conversation around this situation became even more explosive when broader comparisons started circulating in media discussions. Commentators began referencing other famous controversies involving powerful figures, including the widely known Epstein scandal. That name carries enormous weight in public conversation, and once it enters a narrative, the situation instantly becomes far more intense and difficult to separate from the surrounding drama. There is, of course, a deeply documented connection between Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein, and that chapter has already left a heavy mark on the royal family. Photos, travel records, and a massive legal settlement worth millions ended Andrew's public royal duties and changed his reputation forever. The controversy surrounding the Duke of York still hangs over the monarchy like a dark cloud, reminding everyone how damaging those associations became. But when it comes to Meghan, the situation has always been very different. For years, certain corners of the internet have pushed unproven rumors and speculation trying to link her name to that same scandal. Some posts have claimed her name appeared in a so-called black book or flight records connected to Epstein. However, none of those claims have ever been confirmed by credible evidence, and they have remained firmly in the territory of online speculation. Royal strategists have even suspected that some of these rumors were amplified at times as part of what insiders call a dead cat strategy. That tactic involves throwing a shocking story into the media cycle to pull attention away from a bigger issue already dominating headlines. In this case, critics believed it sometimes distracted from the far more documented controversy involving Prince Andrew. That is why the situation exploded when Kevin Costner's comments started circulating in public conversation. His remarks were not seen as a random emotional reaction. Observers say it looked like a deliberate move to reclaim control of his event and draw a bold line about who he wanted associated with it. Because Costner is known in Hollywood as a respected and independent figure, people immediately paid attention. He did not present evidence or details, and he did not attempt to explain further. Yet simply hearing the names Meghan and Epstein discussed within the same wider conversation as Prince Andrew was enough to send shockwaves through royal watchers. That kind of comparison is exactly the scenario the British monarchy tries hardest to avoid. Even indirect links to controversial figures can raise serious questions about judgment and associations. And according to Palace observers, that growing storm of headlines is exactly what has created a quiet sense of alarm behind the walls of Buckingham Palace. King Charles, already balancing a reign shaped by personal health concerns and the constant pressure to steady the monarchy's image, is now said to be watching the situation very carefully. Some royal insiders even describe this moment as one of the most sensitive reputation challenges the institution has faced in recent years. For years, Buckingham Palace has been walking a very delicate line when it comes to the Sussex situation. On one side stands a father who still cares deeply about his son, And on the other side stands a king who must protect the reputation of the crown at all costs. People close to royal circles say that balance has never been easy. Those inside the palace understand that King Charles has been deeply troubled by the growing distance inside his own family, especially when it comes to how divided everything has become. But according to royal watchers, the recent controversy pushed that fragile balance closer to the edge. The discussion that began circulating after Kevin Costner's remarks reportedly struck a nerve at the very top of the institution. Any situation that places a senior royal name near a major scandal instantly raises alarms inside palace walls, and insiders say the timing could not be worse. Right now, the monarchy is facing one of its most fragile moments in years. Both King Charles and the Princess of Wales have been dealing with serious health challenges, leaving the institution relying heavily on a smaller group of working royals to carry public duties. When the royal team becomes that small, every reputation issue suddenly carries much greater risk. The shadow of the Prince Andrew scandal already damaged public trust in the institution. Because of that history, anything that even loosely places another royal name within the same storm of headlines becomes a serious concern for royal advisors. Palace officials have spent years trying to move the royal brand away from stories involving controversy, poor judgment, and damaging associations. After the Costner interview began making waves, conversations that once sounded purely theoretical reportedly became much more urgent. Sources familiar with royal procedures say discussions with constitutional experts and legal advisors about the Sussex titles have started happening more frequently behind closed doors. The question inside those rooms is no longer simply whether action could ever happen. Now, the focus has reportedly shifted to how it might be done and when the right moment would be. When a respected public figure enters a heated narrative, it can suddenly change how the public views the situation. Removing royal titles, however, is anything but simple. It sits inside a complicated web of tradition, legal rules, and centuries of parliamentary history. But as the debate grows louder, many royal analysts are pointing back to one important historical precedent that always enters this conversation. That reference point is the Titles Deprivation Act of 1917. A law created during wartime that allowed the British government to strip royal titles under extreme circumstances. And now, more than a century later, that old law is suddenly being discussed again in modern royal debates. The Titles Deprivation Act was originally passed during the chaos of World War I. At the time, the British government faced an awkward situation where several aristocrats with royal ties were actually aligned with Germany during the conflict. To deal with that problem, the law gave the crown the authority to remove titles from individuals whose actions were seen as working against Britain's interests. That decision created a powerful precedent that still echoes today. It established a very clear idea inside the British system. A royal title is not an untouchable birthright forever. Instead, it is a privilege connected to reputation, duty, and loyalty to the nation. If someone holding that title brings serious embarrassment or damage to the monarchy, the state has the ability to step in and remove those honors. A much more modern example often mentioned in royal discussions involves Prince Andrew. After years of public criticism tied to the Epstein controversy, King Charles reportedly began formal steps in late 2025 to remove several of Andrew's remaining honors and royal roles. That process created a modern roadmap for how the palace might handle situations where a royal family member becomes a long-term reputational burden. According to some reports circulating among royal commentators, a similar type of documentation could be quietly taking shape regarding the Duchess. Sources claim that such a file, if it exists, would likely gather media coverage, timeline records, and accounts from individuals connected to public events. The goal of a file like that would be to demonstrate patterns of behavior considered inappropriate for someone linked to the royal institution. If a monarch ever decided to move forward with something this serious, the next step would almost certainly involve the British government. A resolution would likely need support in Parliament, which would immediately trigger a loud and highly public national debate. At that point, every claim, denial, and accusation would face intense examination under political scrutiny and global media attention. For the Duchess, analysts say that scenario would represent the absolute worst possible outcome. Losing royal titles would not just be a symbolic punishment. It could also shake the foundation of the public identity built after stepping away from royal duties, especially since that global recognition still connects strongly to the royal brand itself. Such a move would signal a dramatic final separation, showing that the monarchy is willing to take extreme steps to defend its long-term reputation. And the pressure is no longer contained within palace walls. By 2026, frustration among parts of the British public has grown louder, and that rising tension is beginning to echo through the political corridors of Westminster as well. At this point, many observers say the situation has moved far beyond simple family tension. What started as royal drama is now being framed as a question about the integrity of the national brand itself. Across the UK, some members of parliament are reportedly receiving waves of letters and petitions from frustrated constituents. Their complaint is blunt. They believe the Sussex name is still benefiting from royal status while publicly criticizing the very institution that created it. Because of that growing pressure, an old law that once gathered dust in history books is suddenly being discussed again inside Parliament. The Titles Deprivation Act of 1917, created during the turmoil of World War I, is now appearing in serious political conversations as a possible tool for handling a modern royal controversy. What once sounded like a distant legal relic is now being debated as a real option in the House of Commons. Constitutional experts say that if lawmakers ever passed a formal resolution connected to royal titles, it could force the monarch to respond. That would create a constitutional moment Britain has not seen for more than 100 years. And for the government, it creates a political headache either way. Taking action could bring global criticism and accusations of pettiness. But refusing to act might make leaders look weak to voters who believe tradition is being openly disrespected. Then came the Costner controversy, which many commentators say completely shifted the narrative. Suddenly, the conversation was no longer just British tabloids clashing with Meghan. Now, a respected Hollywood figure had entered the discussion, and that changed how the story spread internationally. For politicians, outside voices like that can sometimes make it easier to justify stepping into a heated public debate. According to several royal insiders, a quiet message may have already been delivered behind the scenes to the Sussex circle. The warning reportedly suggested that the protection once offered by royal status might not last forever if tensions continue to grow. While that legal and political pressure builds, observers have also noticed something else happening in public view. Prince Harry's recent appearances in early 2026 seem noticeably different. Instead of appearing side by side at every celebrity event, he has increasingly been stepping out on his own. From promoting the Invictus Games in Canada to participating in humanitarian work clearing landmines in Angola, Harry's schedule has started to look very familiar to longtime royal watchers. Some analysts interpret these solo appearances as signs of a widening distance, both personally and institutionally. To them, it almost looks like Harry is trying to reconnect with the image that once made him hugely popular around the world, the adventurous soldier, prince, dedicated to service and global causes. But this new solo path may also reveal something much deeper about Prince Harry's situation. Walking alone at public events can look strong on the surface, yet it also highlights how far he has moved from the life he once knew. In just a few years, he stepped away from royal duties, military roles, and the daily presence of his family to build an entirely different life overseas. Now, he finds himself in an incredibly difficult position, defending his wife while the distance between him and his father appears to grow even wider. That leaves Harry standing at a serious crossroads. On one side is the marriage and the new life he chose in California. On the other side is the royal institution he was born into, an institution that many analysts believe is now prepared to distance itself further if pressure continues to rise. It is a situation that would challenge anyone, especially someone raised inside one of the most watched families on the planet. The Sussex brand itself was built on a powerful combination of royal mystery and Hollywood spotlight. That mix created global attention and opened doors across media, business, and entertainment. But critics often say that foundation has always been fragile. When a respected figure like Kevin Costner publicly distances himself from the situation, it sends a signal that people across both sides of that world are paying attention. For years, the couple argued that much of the criticism aimed at them came from sections of the British press they believed treated them unfairly. But when a famous American actor with a long career and strong reputation enters the conversation, the dynamic changes quickly. Costner is not part of palace politics, and he is not a tabloid editor chasing headlines. That is why his voice carries a different kind of weight in public discussions. To some observers, it suggests the issue may not just be about cultural misunderstandings between Hollywood and the monarchy. Instead, it raises questions about how certain actions are perceived among powerful entertainment figures and business leaders who operate behind the scenes. And that perception matters enormously when huge contracts are involved. Many major entertainment deals include strict morality clauses that allow companies to distance themselves if a public controversy threatens the brand image. Even when claims remain unproven, a wave of negative headlines can make partners nervous about long-term projects. For companies investing millions of dollars into media productions, reputation risk becomes a serious factor. Business partners often prefer stability, and ongoing controversies can quickly turn into uncomfortable boardroom conversations. For Harry personally, the emotional pressure must be intense. He left behind a life of royal duty, global respect tied to his military service, and strong connections inside the royal system to build something new. Now, some of the Hollywood alliances that supported that new chapter appear to be undergoing scrutiny. In today's media climate, even distant references to major scandals can create enormous reputational risk for public figures and corporations alike. The Sussex brand was originally presented as a story about independence, empowerment, and humanitarian work. But now, instead of controlling that narrative, the couple seems to be battling a wave of controversies that threaten to redefine how their story is viewed around the world. Then, there is the financial side of this storm, and some analysts say that could hit even harder than losing a royal title. In the world of massive streaming contracts and celebrity partnerships, reputation is everything. It is the main currency that keeps the deals alive. When the Sussex couple signed huge agreements with companies like Netflix, those contracts were not just simple handshake deals. They reportedly included strict reputation clauses and moral standards, written deep into the legal language. These clauses are extremely common in the entertainment industry. Their purpose is simple. If a public figure becomes too controversial or begins damaging the company's image, the corporation has the right to walk away from the partnership. That safety net protects brands from getting dragged into long public scandals. The moment Kevin Costner's comments began circulating in media conversations, industry watchers believe legal departments inside major entertainment companies likely started paying close attention. In corporate thinking, the issue is not always about whether a claim is proven true or false. What matters most is whether the public association begins to harm the company's reputation or marketability. Now imagine the difficult position this creates for powerful agents and executives in Hollywood. Someone like Ari Emanuel, the head of the major talent agency WME, must constantly balance two responsibilities. On one side, he works to protect and promote his clients. On the other side, he answers to shareholders and business partners who expect profitable, stable investments. If the Sussex brand shifts from being a glamorous connection to royalty into something surrounded by non-stop controversy, executives may start questioning the return on investment. In business terms, if the risk grows larger than the reward, companies begin reevaluating the partnership. That is why some insiders claim quiet contract reviews could already be happening inside Los Angeles boardrooms. Clauses dealing with reputation damage or extraordinary circumstances are often examined carefully when a public narrative starts turning negative. For Meghan and Harry, their entire California lifestyle is closely connected to those major media deals and partnerships. Those checks, projects, and production budgets come from the same Hollywood system that once welcomed them with excitement. If that financial pipeline were ever disrupted, the scale of their business ambitions could shrink dramatically. A situation that began with comments at a charity event has now grown into a much larger debate about image, influence, and credibility. A single story about social interactions has managed to cut through the carefully crafted narrative of global activism and celebrity philanthropy, and that exposes the complicated balancing act at the center of the Sussex brand. Their public identity still carries the power of royal titles, even while they openly challenge the institution those titles came from. At the same time, they are trying to succeed inside Hollywood, a world filled with its own unwritten rules and powerful gatekeepers. For now, the Sussex camp has remained mostly quiet, but in the fast-moving world of media and public perception, silence often creates even more curiosity. One thing is clear: the future path for the Duke and Duchess has rarely looked this uncertain. What we may be witnessing right now could be the final chapter of the Sussex power story. The royal mystery that once fascinated the world has slowly started to fade, and the Hollywood sparkle that welcomed them so loudly is no longer shining quite the same. Now, the spotlight feels harsher, brighter, and far less forgiving. In a city like Hollywood, admiration can disappear quickly, and only those who maintain influence manage to stay at the very top. At the same time, pressure appears to be building on the other side of the Atlantic. While the palace quietly weighs its next steps and political voices in Britain continue discussing the historic 1917 Titles Deprivation Act, a massive question hangs in the air. Can the Sussex brand truly survive without the royal institution they stepped away from? Or was that royal connection the foundation holding everything together all along? The whispers that once floated quietly through tabloids and private conversations have now grown into loud global debates. Media outlets, political observers, and Hollywood insiders are all watching closely to see how this story unfolds. When the dust finally settles, the outcome could reshape not only the Sussex future, but also the modern relationship between royalty, celebrity, and power. Now, we want to hear from you. What do you think about everything happening right now? Should the king take stronger action, or do you believe there is still a path forward for Harry and Meghan? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because this conversation is far from over. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with others who follow royal news and Hollywood drama. Your support helps the channel grow and keeps these stories coming. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.